So I'd like to dedicate this book to all Native Americans. This specific book has to do with the Yokut tribe. And this book was written by Barbara Kanatyoshi. And it looks here like it was part of a series of books, which are Chumash, Huron, Mojave, Shawnee, and a few others. So you can get this book at the library. Let's see. So a few things that this book will be covering are society, homes, the clothing of the Yokuts, crafts, myths, and even the war, which is really interesting. So let's go. Where they lived. The Yokut were a group of about 50 separate tribes. Each tribe spoke a different dialect from the Penutian language family. Their neighbors included the Miwok, Salinan, and the Chumash people. The Yokuts' homelands were in central California. The people were divided into the Northern Valley Yokut, the Southern Valley, and the Foothill. The Northern Valley lived along the San Joaquin River. The western boundary was the Diablo Range, so I'm going to show you here. You can see California here, and it highlights this area right here. The Southern Valley Yokut lived in the San Joaquin Valley, and the land was made up of many rivers, lakes, and wetlands. This is just showing kind of a traditional Yokut homeland and how the rivers ran through that specific area. Sycamore trees, willow, and tule grew along the riverbanks. The foothill Yokut lived in the valley and the foothills of the Sierra Nevada. The territory was made up of wetlands, grasslands, mountains, and rivers. Society. The Yokut lived in settlements along large rivers. Many settlements throughout the Yokut territory, and these settlements were divided into clans. Each had its own animal totem, and some totems were eagles, falcons, bears, cougars, and even the rattlesnake. Each settlement had a chief. Most often, the chiefs were from the Eagle clan. Chiefs were responsible for welcoming visitors and keeping the peace. They set dates for ceremonies and hunting and gathering trips. Chiefs also were there to help the poor. Medicine people were also a part of the settlements. Medicine people had special healing powers. Some performed ceremonies to chase away rattlesnakes or to bring good weather. Bear medicine people were said to be able to turn into bears. A medicine man performs a ceremony to bring food and good luck to the Yokut. Food. The Yokut hunted fish. They gathered food for their lands, and the men hunted the larger animals such as mule, deer, and tule elks. To do this, they used sinew-back bows and stone-tipped arrows. The Yokuts also hunted small animals, including squirrels, jackrabbits, and even quail. The Yokuts gathered freshwater mussels, and the people steamed the mussels on beds of tule. On land, women gathered berries, fruits, and wild plants. They also harvested seeds, tule, pine nuts, and acorns. Acorns were a staple food for the Yokuts. They roasted these nuts and ground them into flour. The Yokut carefully prepared the acorns to remove the bitter tannic acid. The flour could be made into mush or soup. The Yokut cooked with hot rocks. They picked up the rocks and green branches. The people used the branches because they were not yet dry, so they don't have to catch fire that easily. They placed the hot rocks inside a basket and cooked acorn soup. homes. The Yokut lived in cone-shaped homes. Each house was built over a pit, about 12 inches deep and 15 feet across. The frame was a cone made of straight stapling poles. The Yokuts set one end on each pole into the ground, and then they tied the other ends together at the top. When the frame was finished, the people would cover it with tool mats. The foothill Yokut made mats from cedar bark. They even used pine needles. The Yokut also built ramadas. Ramada, that's how you could say it, had a roof made of brush but no walls. It provided shade while the Yokut worked, and women often cooked or ground flour. Each Yokut village had a sweat house. Each sweat house was 18 feet across and about 18 feet tall. The building sat over a pit that was a few feet deep. So the people used a ladder. And I have to say, it says 18 feet tall, 18 feet across. Okay. Okay, so this is the clothing that they wore. In the warm California climate, the Yokut did not wear much clothing. What they did wear was usually made from grass, animal skins, and even feathers that were woven together and fur. The Yokut men wore deerskin breechcloths. Women wore aprons. The front of an apron was woven with grass, while the back might have rabbit skin. For shoes, they wore moccasins, and for hats, they used baskets. They tied it up with a string and made it out of twisted milkweed fibers. The Yokut woman also had tattoos. They created the tattoos by rubbing charcoal into small cuts. These tattoos reached from the mouth down to the chest. Crafts. The Yokut were excellent basket makers. They wove storage and cooking baskets as well as basket hats. The women also made these different baskets in different ways. They used the coil twine or coarse weave methods. Baskets were woven with tule, willow, sawgrass roots, red bud, and fern. Hats were made using the coil method. The designs were often geometric shapes and human forms. The twine method was used to make necked water bottles, and the weave was so tight that the bottles could hold water. The twine method was also used to make seed butter baskets. A coarse weave was used to make baby cradles. The fish basket traps were coarsely woven. Family life. Extended family lived together in the settlements. Together they did daily chores, and these families moved with the seasons. As seeds, berries, and acorns became readily available, the young women would raise children, gather fish, and they would cook. They used digging sticks to dig up edible roots and bulbs. Individual women owned sections of land with a lot of seeds or acorns, and each woman decided when her land was to be harvested. Trade was made easier by traveling in the long tool canoes on many rivers in the territory. To make one of these canoes, the men would gather tool from wetlands, and then they tied the tool with the rope. And this is a picture of a Yokut child gathering tool. The Yokut cared for their babies by carrying them in a cradle basket. Yokut cradle baskets were willow frames with crossbars. A woven tool mattress was attached to the frame, and Yokut children would play games. When the children got older, they also helped with daily chores. They learned by watching and helping adults. Yokut girls learned where to find and gather basket making materials. The girls then learned to prepare the materials. Yokut children learned to make carrying nets. They learned about their culture from their elders. They even learned about dances and songs and stories. Myths. Eagle and crow make a bargain with duck. The Yokut have a story of make-believe about how the earth was created. A long time ago, the earth was flooded. A large eagle with a crow riding on his back flew up to the sky. Eagle and crow flew around looking for land. Eagle and crow saw a stump in the water and rested. Soon they saw fish swimming around, and seeing the fish made them very hungry. They took turns diving to catch the fish. Eagle and crow could not live on the stump forever. They needed mud to make land. Duck swam up to the stump, then to the mud. They gave Duck fish in exchange for mud, and soon 2 big piles of mud formed on the stump. Eagle flew into the sky and noticed that Crow was giving himself more and more mud. Eagle was very angry, and so they fought. Eagle decided he would work twice as hard. Soon his pile was bigger than Crow's. As the piles grew, the water level lowered. The sun hardened the mud. This is how Eagle, Crow, and Duck created the earth. War. Okay. Contact with Europeans. In the 1700s, the Yokut had brief encounters with the Europeans. The Yokut were friendly to these Europeans to enter their territory. In 1772, a Spanish soldier and explorer named Pedro Fages led soldiers into the southern part of the San Joaquin Valley. Later in 1776, Father Francisco Garces entered Yokut territory. More Spanish settlers soon arrived, and that's when they began to build missions. They wanted to convert the tribes of the area to Christianity. Some Yokuts, such as those living in the foothills, were isolated from the missionaries. As the missionaries forced the native people to abandon their cultural ways, some native people escaped. The soldiers were sent to capture the escaped people, and in the 1800s, more and more settlers took Yokut lands. As their environment changed, some of the Yokuts started raiding the missions and the ranches. They even took horses and livestock. The Yokut did not have immunity to European diseases. In the 1830s, many died from the malaria epidemic. They believed a special ghost dance would bring back their dead ancestors and restore their way of life. But interest in the dance faded a few years later. Chief Stanislavsky. Chief Stanislavsky was a Northern Valley Yokut. His Yokut name was Kusinuchi. He eventually came to live at a Spanish mission. There he was baptized and given the name Stanislaw. He was forced to change his traditional ways of life and work for the mission. The missionaries came to respect him. They gave him the title of mayor. However, Stanislaus soon grew angry with the missionaries. He knew the Yokut and other native people worked hard, but they were treated poorly. He saw how following new ways was causing them to forget their language and culture. By 1828, Stanislaw rebelled and escaped from the mission system. He took a group of his people back to the Yokut lands. The mission sent soldiers to bring them back. Stanislaus and his group defeated 2 military expeditions. The third, led by Mexico's Mariano Vallejo, was armed with cannons. Vallejo claimed victory, but he returned without Stanislaus in his group. The Yokut today. Over the years, the Yokut lost many people and almost all of their homelands. As a result, they also lost many of the traditional ways of life. The U.S. government moved many of the Yokut to the Tule River Reservation. The Santa Rosa Rancherita was created later in the mid-1900s. Today there are about 2,000 Yokut people. They live on 3 federally recognized rancherias or reserves. They are in the Santa Rosa area, and the Tule River Reservation includes people from the Yokut tribes. Here, this is a coil woven Yokut basket. Quite beautiful. The one thing I did like about this book is it has its glossary of words. For instance, breechcloth, piece of hide or cloth, usually worn by men, and tannic. And these are words that we're not used to hearing, but tannic means related to tannin, a bitter tasting yellow or brown mix. One of the websites, if you want to check it out, is really cool, www.abdopub.com. Thanks for watching.